All right, so the entry is going to be a stop entry. There we go. And we're going to go to the options tab and the initial placement. We're going to adjust that. Let me squish that up a little bit. There we go. All right, so if it's a long trade, we're going to take the high of the bar, right? The high of the signal bar, and then add 2 ticks. So there we go. We'll knock down the offset to 2. All right, so there you go. So that would be this 2 ticks above the high if it's a long, right, a long signal bar. All right, so there you go. That's the entry part. Pretty straightforward and simple. All right, so it's a stop entry using the high or the low of the bar with a 2 tick offset. All right, next we're going to move to the stop loss here. So David, you don't mention where the stop loss is going to be initially placed, so I'm going to assume it's going to be, you know, your basically your trailing stop indicator here. Yeah, so in this case, I'm going to use the ATR trailing stop indicator. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to trailing here. So for the stop loss, I'm going to go trailing, and then I'm going to use the parabolic SAR trailing here. And so what that does is that basically sets the stop loss up to use an indicator. So now I can go into the initial placement and I can just replace the parabolic SAR because my mode, the select mode's already been set to indicator value for me. So I saved a split second of time. So, but now I can go to the indicator and just switch out the indicator that you want to use here. So I'll go to Lizard Indicators, and there you go, ATR trailing stop. There it is. And of course, guys, as always, be sure to adjust any of the properties for your indicator here. And then we'll select the stop dots, like so. All right, and that does it. Yeah. So I'll set that up for the initial placement, and then now we can start getting into the actual trailing rules here. So let's switch over to the trailing actions tab, and actually, well, yeah, it doesn't actually look like, it doesn't look like we need this trailing rule to trail the ATR trailing stop, but I'll leave it in there just in case. And let's rename this here. There we go. All right, so I need to go into the action. So since I'm gonna keep this trailing rule, anyways, I need to go into the action and replace the parabolic SAR with the AMA ATR trailing. So let's go into Lizard Indicators again. There's our ATR trailing indicator. Select it, and of course, change any kind of properties that you need to adjust, and there we go. There, we're good. So now let's add these other custom trailing rules here. So all right, rule B. All right, so we're going to move the stop loss to basically the entry price minus 5 ticks once there is 10 ticks of profit. All right, so the trigger that we want is for 10 ticks of profit. So we could use the delay or we could use the profit, but let's see here. well, actually, let's see here. Yeah, you know, since this entry order may not be picked up right away, I'm going to use the profit or loss here. I'm going to use the profit or loss. So the mode, well, we are looking for a profit. And the units, well, instead of currency, we're going to use ticks. And then, let's see, we're going to use max amount here. And there we have it. The minimum amount is to kind of, you can use the minimum amount here to kind of create a scenario where something is happening with this amount of profit or less, right? So the minimum amount would be, you know, if I set this to 10 ticks, then the minimum amount would be, okay, we're looking for less than 10 ticks of profit. But in this case, we're looking for 10 ticks of profit or more. So we want the maximum amount. Actually, sorry, I have that backwards. Yeah, sometimes the terminology looks backwards, but I'm sorry. Yeah, we actually want minimum. We want a minimum of 10 ticks of profit. So sorry, I explained that backwards. So the maximum would say, so if we set it to maximum, that would mean that this trigger condition, right, this profit or loss condition, it would be true as long as the profit is from 0 ticks of profit, basically no profit, to a maximum of 10 ticks. So basically, think of this maximum as kind of creating a inside kind of condition, right? So if our profit is within 1 tick to 10 ticks within that amount of profit, so it kind of creates a within kind of condition. So, but we're looking for a minimum of 10 ticks or more. So now, once we have our 10 ticks of profit set in the trigger, next we can go to the action and actually move. We're going to move the order to, so we're going to take the entry price, right? So basically the entry price is the same way as saying break even. And then subtract 5 ticks. There we go. All right, so there we go. -5 from the entry price basically creates, a break even -5 ticks. There. All right, and the repeat, essentially, these kind of break even type of trailing stop losses are a one-time action. So the repeat, we'll just leave that to no repeat. Leave that on none. All right, so let's move on to the next rule here. So this is going to be break even +2 at 15 ticks of profit. So we're going to go into the trigger again. And again, let's go into profit or loss. Set the mode to profit. Set the units to ticks. And this time we're looking for a minimum of 15 ticks. There we go. All right. Now we'll go into the action again. And we want to move that stop loss to, we're going to move it to the entry price +2 ticks. So that's our break even +2 ticks. All right, and then the last one is after that. Then we're going to trail our stop loss by 5 ticks. Okay, so let's add another trailing roll here. So 5 ticks at 16 ticks of profit. So we'll go into the trigger again. Go to profit or loss. We're looking for a profit. Our units is in ticks again. And set the minimum. And we're going to put in 16 ticks, like so. All right, so the action is this time we're going to use the last price, right? So that's how trailing rules operate, right? Trailing rules are tracking the last price. You know, basically if you're in a long trade, right, it'd be the highest last price. You know, so BlackBird is, you know, doing that for you automatically. It's tracking the highest last price, you know, if you're in a long trade, or the lowest last price, right, if you're in a short trade. So we're going to monitor the last price and set a -5 tick offset, right, from basically the highest last price that was set during the trade. And the repeat this time, right, we want this final trailing rule to constantly repeat on a tick by tick basis. So we're going to set it to repeat indefinitely, and then set repeat every 2 ticks of movement in a profitable direction. Right, there we go. Stretch that out a little bit. There. Ticks of movement in a profitable direction every tick. So, yeah. You know, now if you wanted the stop loss to only move, you know, every 2 ticks of market movement, you know, then you could increase this to 2, and then that way your stop loss only moves when the market moves 2 additional ticks, you know. But we'll leave that to 1. There we go. All right. So there we have that one. So that is scenario 1. All right. And so now let's build scenario 2. Oh, and 4 contracts here. So we're going to set the number of contracts right here, right? The top left is where you set the number of contracts. We'll increase that to 4 there. All right, so let me take a quick look at scenario number 2 here. All right, so the entry is the entry is the same. Okay, so there we go. So scenario number 2 is actually trailing the indicator. Yeah, so this one's trailing the indicator. All right, so let's go into the stop loss here, and I will just delete this trailing rule here for the AMA ATR trailing stop. So I'll just delete that here, hit the X, and that deletes that out. All right, so there you go. That's scenario number 1 here. So let me let's save that out there. All right, so now we can move on to scenario number 2. So the entry, let's see, let me just double check here. Yeah, so the entry is still the same. We're just going to adjust the stop loss a little bit. All right, so let's go into, so the stop is going to trail the indicator. So our initial placement is actually okay. We'll keep that. So we can go into the trailing actions here. Yeah, and I'll just go and, oops, didn't want to add. I want to delete all these trailing rules. Actually, let's just do this. I'll just build the stop loss from scratch again here. So go down to trailing, go to the parabolic SAR trailing, and then all I need to do, so I'm going to go to the options tab, go to the initial placement, and so I just need to replace the parabolic SAR with, right, the stop loss indicator that I'm going to use again here. So there's our ATR trailing stop. Again, adjust any kind of, you know, properties here, period settings and whatnot. So there you go. So there's the initial placement. And of course, guys, remember that when you're using indicators to set your stop loss, right, your indicator, you know, obviously needs to be on the correct side of the market, right? Otherwise, your stop loss can't be placed, right? So if your indicator is on the wrong side of the market, that stop loss can't be placed, and so you would be without a stop loss. So just be mindful of that when you're using indicators for stop losses. All right, so we have the initial placement set up. So now we can go into the trailing actions. And there we go. There's a name, and for the action, we're going to move the stop loss to, and we just replace the parabolic SAR with the ATR, there it is, trailing stop indicator, like so. All right, and repeat is set to indefinitely. So there, we're done. All right, and actually that was just the image. Yeah, and we're done. So there you go. So the scenario number 2 is quite a bit easier to set up. All we had to do was, again, to set up scenario 2, I just used, there we go. So what I did is I just used the quick list here and just used the parabolic SAR trailing, and then just went in and replaced the parabolic SAR, right, with the ATR trailing stop indicator. So, or you can just obviously use any indicator you want and just replace the parabolic SAR, right, and that'll get you started a lot faster. All right, that one's pretty simple, so I'm not going to save this one out here. This one's pretty simple. So, okay, I think we're done with this question. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, so David's got a follow-up question here. He's asking, so if he wants to take profits at with one contract at, say, 10 ticks and another contract at 20 ticks, he needs to make separate order sets. That would be correct. With this being 4 contracts here, yeah, if you want to take different profit targets here, then what I can do is I can copy A, and then, so we have 4 contracts here. So A will be 1 contract, B will be 1 contract, and so there's 2 contracts remaining. So I'll need to copy again. There we go. And then I can set order set A, right, down to 1 contract. Set order set B down to 1 contract, and then order C will be set to 2 contracts. And then for the profit target, let's see, yeah, I can set that to 10 ticks, and then for order set B, I'll set it to 10 ticks, and then go to the options tab, and I'll edit this to be a 20 tick profit target. And so there you go. Yep. So now you got 1 contract plus another is 2 contracts plus 2 more is 4 contracts. Yep.